You reach a point where you're just done. Not because you're heartless, not because you've stopped caring, but because you've been stretched so thin by trying to control things that were never really in your hands to begin with. You've tried fixing it, planning it, holding it all together, and still it slips away. And you're left staring at the mess, wondering why all your effort seems to make things worse. Why the more you push, the more distant it all feels. Why every ounce of effort gets met with silence. That moment right there, that's not a breakdown. It's a shift, a realization. Maybe the issue wasn't how hard you were trying. Maybe it was the pressure, the grip, the obsession with making it go your way. Because the second you actually let go, not out of defeat, but out of clarity, something changes. It's not about giving up. It's about stepping aside, about recognizing that some energy doesn't want to be held, that some things you were chasing were never yours to catch in the first place. In that space, when you're no longer holding your breath, no longer waiting on something to finally click, there's quiet. And in that quiet, your thoughts slow down. Your body relaxes. Your gut starts to speak louder. You start moving without that frantic energy. You're calmer, more precise, more in tune. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You move anyway. And that shift, life picks up on it. Suddenly, things that once felt out of reach start drifting towards you. The job, the person, the peace. But before that shift, it's all tension. You hold on to things that were never really stable. You tell yourself, if I just say the perfect thing, act the perfect way, do everything right, maybe then it'll all fall into place. But the cost is heavy. You don't realize how much of your peace is leaking out through the cracks. You check your phone way too often. You overanalyze that one conversation from 2 days ago. You keep asking yourself if you could have done it differently. And for what? The people meant to be in your life won't need convincing. The opportunities that are truly for you won't need to be chased every second. But you forget that because somewhere along the way, you learned that control equals progress. That if you care enough, you'll succeed. If you try hard enough, they'll stay. If you analyze every move, maybe you won't get blindsided again. But that's not peace. That's panic. That's a life lived on edge. That's turning your every day into a tightrope walk, every moment into something that can go horribly wrong. And then that fear, that constant pressure, it starts to feel normal. But it's not. It's just you forgetting what normal ever felt like. Letting go doesn't mean apathy. It means recognizing that your worth isn't tied to outcomes. There's a part of you underneath all that noise, the one who moves without overthinking, the one who doesn't fear loss, the one who can walk away without falling apart. That's the version of you that returns when you finally stop managing everything to death. And the wild thing, life starts moving differently the moment you stop watching it like a hawk. People feel it. They feel when you're no longer desperate. They feel when you're rooted. And the respect starts coming, not because you shut down, but because you leveled out. You stop pouring your energy into things that never grow. You stop scattering yourself to every possible outcome. And once that energy is back with you, something clicks. You move with power again. You make decisions not from fear, but from clarity. You say no without guilt. You stop justifying yourself to people who were never really listening anyway. And it all starts working not because you're finally trying hard enough, but because you're not fighting yourself anymore. Here's what most people miss. It's not that you're making decisions. It's that you're reacting. reacting to silence, to the delay, to the person who didn't text back, to the job that hasn't come through, to the way life isn't answering you as fast as you'd like. Your thoughts are always elsewhere, always checking, always hoping, always wondering if you're doing enough. And that constant pull, it wires you for stress. Every day becomes pressure. You're not really living. You're waiting. Waiting for something to change so you can finally breathe again. But the truth? You could exhale right now. You could let go, and things would shift faster than you think. Because when you stop obsessing over the outcome, your presence changes. Your energy softens, but it sharpens too. You speak less, but everything hits deeper. You move slower, but every move has weight. People feel that. They notice when you stop trying so hard to prove something. When you settle into yourself. That's what changes the dynamic. Not more effort, not more chasing. Just presence, just stillness. That's what detachment gives you. Because when you're not lost in outcomes, you finally show up. You're not stuck in your head. You're not carrying around all the what ifs. You're here. And from here, from that still place, you stop acting from fear. You stop overdoing it for people who barely show up. You stop explaining your worth. You stop shrinking yourself just to keep someone around. You stop preparing for heartbreak that hasn't even happened. And that's when you notice something. When you really stop needing it all so badly, nothing collapsed. If anything, things got quieter, more peaceful, more clear. It's never been about how hard you tried. It's always been about where your energy was going. There's a kind of quiet power in being able to walk away. Not out of pride, not because you're angry, but because you're finally clear. When you stop needing life to bend in a certain direction, you start seeing it for what it really is. That friend who always bails last minute. You stop chasing them. That person who sends mixed signals. You stop decoding. That job you've been clinging to, even though it drains every bit of joy out of you. You stop calling it security and start recognizing it for what it really is. Fear wearing a mask. This is the part that throws people off. Detachment isn't cold. It's honest. It's about telling yourself the truth about what's not aligned, about what you've been forcing, about what you're afraid to lose, even when it never gave you anything real. It's hard, yeah, because we've been taught that urgency equals importance. That if it feels urgent, we must do something about it. But a lot of things only feel urgent because your self-worth got tangled up in them. Somewhere along the line, you decided that if this thing slips away, so does a part of you. That if you lose this, you're less lovable, less valuable, less seen. But that's not real. That's just a lie dressed up in panic. You don't need to keep chasing love to prove you're worthy of it. You don't need constant wins to prove you're not falling behind. You don't need closure from someone who never gave you clarity when it mattered. What you need, what you've always needed, is presence. To show up for yourself first. To stop forcing the rhythm of life and let it unfold the way it's meant to. And when you do that, when you stop gripping everything so tightly, you begin to see more clearly. And when your vision clears, you stop holding on to the things that don't lift you up, but instead weigh you down. You weren't meant to stay tangled in messes that drain you. You're meant to move with clarity, to love hard, yes, but to know when to step back with peace and no guilt. Because if there's one thing that's always in your control, it's your energy, and where you decide to place it. We don't realize just how deeply our peace has been tied to outcomes. When someone praises you, you feel good. When someone chooses you, you feel valuable. When progress is obvious, you feel motivated. But the second those things shift even slightly, your whole mood goes with them. One person pulls away. Suddenly you're questioning everything. One slow week, you're spiraling, thinking you must be doing something wrong. And that's when it hits. It's not the situation, it's the attachment, that tight grip on needing life to go your way. Confidence is easy when life's applauding you. But what about the moments when it's silent? When you've done everything right and there's still no reward? That's when detachment becomes your anchor. That's when you start to build a strength that doesn't collapse just because no one's watching. You stop measuring your worth with a scoreboard. You stop needing permission to feel good inside yourself. True confidence doesn't yell. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It's quiet, solid, rooted, and it only shows up when you stop needing everything outside of you to validate everything inside of you. And that's when it hits you. You don't need anyone to fully get you to know who you are. You don't need signs every 2 minutes from the universe to trust where you're going. You don't need the perfect setup to take the next step. You just need to stop giving so much of your power away to things that don't even see you clearly. That's what detachment is. It's not numbness. It's wisdom. It's not disconnection. It's discipline. You still care. You still feel deeply. But you've stopped abandoning yourself just to keep something that was never yours anyway. That's where things shift. When you show up, give your all, and still don't need something in return to feel whole. That's when life finally aligns. Not because you twisted it into place, but because you became unshakable. And the truth, most people don't learn this until they're burnt out, until they've given one too many second chances, until they've rewritten the same text message at 2 a.m. for someone who already showed they don't care, until they've been left on read too many times and still wondered what they did wrong. That's when it lands. Not everything is meant to be held onto. Not every love is meant to last. Not every person you care for will care the same way back. And that realization, it doesn't show up as an inspiring speech. It shows up quietly, on some random day, when you're just tired, not angry, not crying, just done. And in that stillness, you stop chasing. Not because you're bitter, but because peace finally feels more valuable than answers. Letting go doesn't feel like losing anymore. It starts to feel like the start of something better. You stop trying to explain yourself to people who never listened. You stop hoping they'll finally meet you where you've been waiting all along. You stop offering pieces of your energy to things that only drain you. And that's when you understand starting over isn't failure. It's clarity. It's deciding you're no longer available for confusion, for chaos, for anything that demands you shrink just to keep it alive. And when you start choosing peace over being liked, over being chosen, that's when life really changes. Not instantly, but gradually. The silence, it doesn't scare you anymore. The space, it feels clean. The delays, they don't break you. The distance doesn't sting the same, because you've already chosen yourself. And once that happens, once you've really chosen yourself, you'll start to feel everything move differently. Life stops pushing back so hard, not because you've figured out some magic formula, but because you're no longer bending for everything else. You're not trying to earn your place anymore. You're just taking up space, quietly, fully, without apology. One of the strongest, most overlooked forms of power is restraint. Not the kind where you suppress your emotions or pretend things don't hurt, but the kind where you could reach out, but you don't. You could try to fix it, but you let it go. You could ask for clarity, but you sit with the uncertainty instead and let it speak. And that's the emotional maturity no one talks about. No one gives you a round of applause when you stay silent instead of lashing out. There's no trophy for choosing calm over chaos, but that's the space where real growth happens. That's where alignment starts to take shape, because caring too much can cloud your judgment. It makes you lose track of what you're even carrying. Suddenly, you're walking around with everyone else's baggage on your shoulders. Their mood swings, their unresolved emotions, their mixed signals, and you start thinking it's yours to manage. You censor your words. You lower your standards. You pretend you don't need much, just to keep things stable. But detachment reminds you, you don't have to shrink yourself to keep something. You don't have to carry what was never yours. And you sure as hell don't have to break yourself open just to be understood by someone who never really listened in the first place. When you learn to detach, you stop fighting reality. You stop trying to revive something that's already over. You stop hoping temporary people will give you permanent answers. And slowly, you stand taller. You speak softer, but your words carry more. You do less, but every action has weight. You stop rushing. You stop chasing. You stop performing. Because the version of you who was always trying to be enough, trying to be seen, trying to be chosen, that version finally lays it down. And in that space, the real you steps forward, the one who's done proving, the one who doesn't grip love like it's going to slip away, the one who knows that letting go doesn't mean you've stopped feeling it, just means you've started feeling better. You've started choosing yourself in moments where you used to abandon your own needs. You've outgrown the version of you that needed to be everything for everyone, the one who begged for closure from people who never respected your questions, the one who sat in silence, hoping someone would notice your pain without you having to say it. Now, you say less, but it lands deeper. You walk away, not with bitterness, but with peace. You don't announce your departure, you just leave the space. And the irony, the second you stop overextending, people begin to notice. The moment you stop trying to be understood, they start seeing you clearly. The instant you stop chasing the outcome, things begin to align on their own. It's not cold, it's clear. You're not punishing anyone. You're just done abandoning yourself. Because the truth is, anything that requires you to forget who you are in order to keep it, that's not for you. Real connection doesn't ask you to sacrifice your soul just to be seen. Real love won't ask you to perform your pain to earn its attention. What's meant for you will never make you feel like you have to twist yourself into something smaller to receive it. So breathe. Let go. Watch what happens when you stop trying to control what was never yours. You'll notice a calm that wasn't there before. Not because everything outside of you changed, but because you finally changed what you were giving your energy to. And if something in all of this is hitting close to home, if some part of you is finally tired of pretending you're okay with less than you deserve, you're not alone. More of us are reaching this place than you'd think. The place where peace matters more than being liked. Where feeling grounded is more important than being chosen. Where your energy isn't a free-for-all anymore. Because when you stop gripping so tightly, when you release that white-knuckle hold on outcomes and people and timelines, you start to see how much of your life was shaped by fear. Fear of being misunderstood. fear of being left behind, fear of starting over. But once you let go of needing everything to go your way, the fear starts to fade too. And then you feel it, that shift, the quiet settling, the clarity that creeps in when your mind finally stops spinning. You're not scrambling anymore. You're not reacting to every delay or silence or moment of doubt. You're just here, not waiting, not proving, not performing. And everything around you begins to adjust. People sense it when you're no longer available for confusion, when you stop explaining your boundaries, when you stop lowering your standards just to keep someone else comfortable. Life starts to bend, not because you begged it to, but because you finally stop bending for everything else. The real strength is in the restraint, in knowing you could explain yourself, but you don't. You could justify your feelings, but you stay still. You could go chasing the answer, but instead, you let it come to you. That kind of strength, it's quiet. It doesn't need to be loud to be felt, because once you stop needing to be everything for everyone, you reclaim the parts of yourself you gave away. You stop offering up your time, your words, your effort, just to earn space in someone else's life. And once you felt that freedom, it's hard to go back to anything that costs you your peace. And here's what no one tells you: detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you've learned to care without losing yourself. You still love deeply, but you don't cling. You still show up fully, but you don't beg to be seen. You still give, but you don't overgive, because now you know your worth isn't found in who accepts you. It's found in how you accept yourself, in how you protect your own energy, in how you walk away, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. So if you've been holding on too tightly, maybe it's time to breathe. If you've been overthinking, overgiving, over-explaining, maybe it's time to rest. If you've been trying too hard to make things work, maybe it's time to let them unfold on their own. Because when you stop gripping life like it's trying to escape, you'll be surprised how naturally it starts to come together. The people meant to stay won't need to be chased. The opportunities aligned with you won't pass you by. And you won't need to prove your worth, not to anyone, not even to yourself. You'll just know. And when that happens, everything around you starts to feel lighter. Your relationships feel cleaner. Your choices feel clearer. Your days feel more like yours. And that version of you, the one who stopped needing so badly and started showing up fully, that version isn't fragile. That version is free. And freedom, once you taste it, changes everything.